Hello, everybody. I am here to talk to you with Ryan Fukuda about our upcoming elective, which is called Telling Your Own Story. So we're going to have a little discussion about this elective, which starts on Thursday, February 29th, 2024. So it starts on Leap Day. How often do you get to start a class on Leap Day? I don't know. How many years does it take to get to another Leap Day, Ryan?
4 years maybe.
I
I
think.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're both excited about this, and we're going to have a little chat about what this is about. And actually, I'd like to start off just a little bit by saying this is an actual writing elective. I mean, besides working with energy and reading energy and using your psychic tools, you're going to be writing both in class and then very much encouraged to write outside of class. And it's not like it's an assignment that everybody gets to critique. This is actually writing that's about you telling your own story and being able to kind of dig through energies or say hello to energies that might have been maybe getting in the way or judging you telling your story, or some of the other things that we're going to actually talk about as we get into this. So Ryan, I know, do you want to bring up a few of those, or do you have something more to say
Yeah,
with this? Yeah.
definitely. One of the things I've been thinking about with this class is just like recognizing that there are, students in the academy who love to write or to journal or to sort of think about like what even in classes, like what comes up for them after a class, like, or what comes up for them in their dream space, and they write about it. And so one of the things that I get excited about this class is like the actual writing part, right, and working energy with the writing itself. Of course, we'll be doing meditation and we'll be reading and we'll be working tools, but like we actually get to do writing in this class. So that's what makes me excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's really fun. It's one of the things that we've both worked together on. We've actually had writing meetups before, and
Yeah.
working with another colleague too, and just doing that. But it's something that you and I each do on our own as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your writing or anything that comes
Yeah,
up for you
definitely.
with this?
Yeah, lately, maybe for the last 2 to 3 years, I've been focusing on screenwriting. So I am telling stories that I enjoy, and through the characters, I'm speaking about things like psychic awareness or things like energy, not in like explicitly saying it, but actually kind of talking about like the journey or just like a perspective about being psychic without really saying it, right? So, and these are the ways in which I can tell my story through my screenwriting, right? To be able to maybe a character says something, or maybe there's an arc where they're working on some sort of way to be grounded, or a way to have a relationship with somebody, and having that sort of emotional connection, but on an energy level, right? Or thinking about it in that kind of way. Um, or just kind of out there stuff like astrally, dream space stuff, right? Where I get to kind of go weird and kind of imagine something new that maybe I haven't thought of before, or maybe it came from a dream, and I get to incorporate that in my scripts. So that's been really fun to kind of play with. Yeah.
I want to read your work. If you're ever looking
Well,
for a better reader, let me include me.
yeah. Yeah. And, and then I also like to just kind of go general. Like recently I've been writing a dramedy. It's actually about my father, who was a conscientious objector in during the Vietnam War times, 1970s. And how I am kind of seeing this process is not only healing with sort of that relationship with my father, and like I even have documents of like what he went through during that time, and like the paperwork and the interviewing and all of it. So he documented everything. So I have it right next to me when I'm writing, and I get to kind of get a little peek into who he is. But then through that, I get to work through my own personal sort of journey around this. Like he considered himself a pacifist, and I do myself too. So I get to sort of explore that, and then sort of what's my perspective about this? What's my story about being a pacifist in the world? So that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And it is really like in telling his story, you're telling your story, or in telling your
Exactly.
story, but you're also, it's really neat that you get to draw upon his story, because whenever we tell a story, we tell our own stories. There are other people involved. And that is something we've discussed.
Yes. Yeah.
Sometimes when you're trying to tell your own story, whether you're writing it or not, and that this is anybody who is working through, in a psychic growth period and learning how to see the pictures for themselves and find their own pictures. That's really, this is that.
Right.
And you start to see which pictures are not yours, or in this case, like whose story might be sitting on top of your story, or the demands that come in. And this is some of the stuff I've been running into over the past few years as I've been getting deeper and deeper into having permission just to be personal in my own writing and talk about my experiences. In the past, I used to feel like, oh, I can't bring that up because I don't want to sound like I'm being, like saying something mean about that person. And it's not. There's, unless you really just want to go out and eviscerate somebody, but that's not what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Telling a story, and there's sometimes such a demand to like be the person who holds the story for everyone. Right. And then therefore you don't get to tell your own story. So in my writing, I've been like, no, wait, this is mine. And it's just so easy when I get to it. And it's not otherwise, it's
right.
Digging through so that's like a lot of what I know we'll be discussing, or that will be coming up in this elective, is that like what other energies, and not blaming anybody, but what other energies might be kind of so tied in. And sure, you might want to tell someone else's story because yours is right in there, like you're doing, but you're finding your own.
Right. My own voice, or whatever it is, I'm finding a way, like there's situations in the script that they're not accurate per se. Like it's actually needs to be told in a particular way in order to actually find the truth about it, right? Like sometimes accuracy isn't actually the thing. Maybe there's a imagination or creativity that needs to sort of come into play here, meaning like it doesn't have to be just like always right exactly what it needs, how it happened or anything like that, right? So it's also expanding that idea, like telling your own story isn't always about accuracy.
Right.
It's like you're trying to get to the heart of something or the truth about what's happening, and sometimes it's kind of the situation or the thing is shifted in some way.
And that's like the healing power of fiction. I've read so much of it, but it's just because it might be really based on, and it's really based on something else, but there's a story being told. And we can also do that in our own stories without even having to name names or mention our.
Right. I was going to say, like, can't you maybe put a spin on it a little bit, if you're talking about somebody that's really close to you or was a part of the story you were talking about.
Yeah.
Like
And then all those, and all those energies and those agreements and those demands to not get into it. I've actually heard people in my life say in the past, I can't write that until my father's gone, or I can't write that until this or that, they can't, or they can write it, but not share it, and that's okay. That's, I appreciate that. That's, a whole thing, but that is an energy. Everyone wants to own each other's stories.
Right. Yeah, I did want to bring something up too, because I did say I was excited about the writing, but there's also other ways to tell your story, right? Like maybe you are like how we're like interviewing, or maybe you do a TED talk. Or or you're talking to somebody just face to face, like in your life, like that's also a part of telling your own story, right? Or ways, right? So we'll be working on that too. It's not just about the writing, right? It's also how do you speak that? Like how do you feel empowered to speak that, or to be able to tell your story or your truth through your voice?
Expression.
Hello,
Fifth chakra.
Right. There's plenty of that we're going to be working on for sure.
Very much. Really exciting. And all the energies that go along with that too, which is sometimes a demand might come in to tell someone else's story and maybe you don't want to.
Right.
You know, like be the bearer of the stories, hold them. I might have said this in a different way a little while ago, but really it's holding on to it for others, like telling the story. And maybe you do want to, and that's great too, but then sometimes there's that demand to kind of not tell your own.
Right. I never want to tell my own because it's scary.
It is
right.
scary.
It's like it takes something to get to that point of being, you have to blow a lot of roses, you got to clear a lot of energy to get to that place where you're actually like telling your truth. Yeah.
Even like something as simple as writing a bio to be seen online, you know, whether it's on your own website or someplace else. I know, because I've done it a bunch of times and I'm like, is this okay? Can I write this? You know,
how many times I've like blown up my bio, I can't even count. Like, I'm always adjusting it on my website all the time. And it's just like, how is this so hard to talk about myself? I could talk about anybody else, but when it comes to me, I'm like, who am I?
So for those of you who are having a hard time writing your bios, you're not alone. It's a thing.
Definitely.
But it is really about saying, hey, I'm here. This is me. And this is what I. So that's like another way to do it, you know, to you're telling something about yourself.
Right. And you have to say the right thing. Like, what is the right words? Like, is that correct? Oh, I don't know. Like, maybe I need to move this word over here. And it's like, maybe it doesn't have to be perfect in that way. Yeah. Maybe you really actually know how to tell your own story. It's just, there's energy on it.
There's just energy on it. But that's what we will be doing. And is there something else you want to talk about with this before we end our recording?
Well, I would say, yeah, I think that this is going to be a pretty dynamic class. No class is going to be the same. I think that just if you decide to sign up, like, be prepared to just have a good time, and of course, you know, there's always growth periods in any class you take, so don't let that stop you. There's always a growth period in life. So yeah, if you're interested in telling your own story and really diving into just something different and new in the psychic space, I think this is a great class.
Definitely. And just a reminder to everyone who's watching this class is 8 weeks. It's an elective, and it is set at a clairvoyant level. So everyone who's completed Mastery 1 and 2 is welcome. And is there anything I missed in there?
No, I think that's it.
People can go to the practicums. I mean, all of that's included, obviously, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And if you're interested in diving a little bit further in terms of looking at maybe like coaching sessions or things like that, like, we're going to be available to do that as well if you're trying to dive a little bit deeper into stuff. So I think that's another thing you can think about.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, we have been there, and we are continuing to keep working that space. All right. Well, we hope to see you in class, and thank you, Ryan. Nice talking to you.
Thank you. All right.
All righty.